You are listening to The Underground Subway with host David Alston, a podcast dedicated to giving you the strategies to live a free and better life. Here is David Alston.
Hi, I'm David Alston, and welcome to the Underground Subway. I'm your host for this podcast that has one goal, one thing, one reason why this podcast is being aired. It is to give you, my friends, the strategies, the tools necessary to lead a better and more productive life. No matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for a better life. In our world that we live in our times that we live in, many times we've got to step back and reevaluate and look at things and say, listen, I want to be better. I want to live a better lifestyle. Harriet Tubman, the host, my grandmother's first cousin who hosted and ran the Underground Railroad, said that she could have freed a lot more slaves if only they knew that they were slaves. My friends, we live in a world in which sometimes we have to reevaluate only to find out, you know what? I did have chains holding me down. I did have things that are holding me back. This podcast is dedicated to showing you how to remove the chains, how to break yourself free, and how to live a better life. My friends, I'm excited about the Underground Subway podcast, this episode, because I have a special guest. I have a wonderful guest. I have a guest in which I'm excited to talk to. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest for the Underground Subway. His name is Sandeep Nath, and Sandeep is the founder of RENEWALism, and an IIT-IIM alumnus. He founded and ran a successful strategy consulting company before heading to the Himalayas in search of the purpose of life and what drives our energetic consciousness. As a coach, he has taken the sacred wisdom of our inner power to more than 46 cities spread over 4 continents. An international Reiki master, business ongoing guide, mindfulness coach, and author of 2 books. Sandeep is an expert on stress management and applying ancient oriental wisdom to modern business challenges. He is on the executive boards of the Global Youth Mental Health Awareness Incorporated in Australia and the Professional Speakers Association of India. I'm excited because I feel like this podcast is going to give me a coaching session. And because you are listening, you can join in. Help me welcome Sandeep Nath to the Underground Subway. Thank you, my friend, for joining us on the Underground Subway.
Thank you so much, David. You make me laugh right at the outside. That was funny. Well, I'm so delighted to be here. Let's see who gets coached.
Well, all right.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's jump right into it. I'm excited about, what we're going to talk about it because I'm excited about life. I'm excited about getting better. In reading your bio, it was interesting because your bio said that you went to the Himalayas in search of the purpose of life and what drives our energetic consciousness. When I think about energetic consciousness, Sandeep, I think about, and if I'm wrong, correct me, I don't mind. That's why we're talking. I think about the fact that in life, maybe I'll put it this way. I mentioned in the opening that sometimes we have chains holding us back that we don't know about. When I think about
That was profound.
when I think about uh, my energetic consciousness, do I have chains that are holding me back that could be things that I'm doing, such as bad habits that I don't know are bad habits?
That again is profound. You've actually covered a lot of bases with that one statement there. And habits, well, that's a hot button which you've hit right at the, right as we go. But let's understand what this energetic consciousness is about, because people often get confused when we bring the word energy into any conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
they're very familiar with physical stuff. and a little bit with mental stuff. We think, we strategize, we plan, we do things with our mind. But when it comes to energy, usually people are at a loss. They think of ghosts and woo woo stuff and the spirit world and God knows what.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I want to demystify for our listeners. First thing, that we are all a composite of the body, the mind, and the spirit. And when we are feeling low, when we are not performing to our full potential, when we feel that there is room for improvement, as you mentioned, it's because our spirits are down. We actually say that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at these words itself, being in low spirits, it is basically being in low energy. We feel low because the capacity to do things, the capacity to get things done is challenged by the low energy. And
Mm-hmm.
if that is the way that we look at energy and energetic consciousness, then we're just looking at it as one of the trinity of what we are composed of, one which we are least familiar with, but it's as much a part of us as our body or our mind.
Wow.
Now, how do we tap into that energy? How do we make that energy work for us? That's where, again, we lean back on this body, mind, spirit trinity, and we appreciate, acknowledge that we are very aware of working with the body, the physical aspect. So if we can do something physically, then our mind tends to believe more about it. So then we move the mind with the body. And if the mind gets convinced about something, we develop a belief system. We have a certain set behavior based on our beliefs, which then affects the way that we emotionalize our experience. Am I making sense? You think an example would be good in this place?
Wow. Yes.
All right, great. So let's clarify this with an example. Let's say we have a ball coming at us. All right. What is the natural reaction anybody would have? It would be a physical reaction to get out of the way. All right. You don't want to be hit by the ball. And that is the behavior, the physical behavior that we manifest. But where does that link to? It links to the mind, which is in survival mode. Just getting hit in the face may not kill you, but it triggers the same reaction. And that is where all our stresses come from. And that's where a lot of problems in life come from, because our mind starts believing that we're going to get hit. But
Uh-huh.
but if you were behind the windscreen of a car when this happened, the result would be that the ball would bounce off the windshield and you wouldn't get hit. Now
Okay.
you look at how the emotions pan out. You were fearing getting hit, but the moment that ball bounces back, you are actually elated. Or if you are not very high in self-esteem, you probably ashamed. Hey, I didn't think of that. So you could swing anywhere from being elated to being ashamed, depending on how your emotional makeup is. And that emotional makeup is your energetic consciousness.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Sandeep. I was watching and maybe I'm asking you for a little clarification on that illustration. I was watching a baseball game,
Yeah,
and the people sitting behind home plate, there was a net that was up to
yeah.
protect them. The batter hit a ball that went backwards right towards the gentleman's face, and he jumped and he flinched and he tightened up because the ball was coming at his face, but the ball never got to him. It hit the net.
Exactly.
Is that similar to what you were saying?
Exactly. Exactly. Now, if that person had a higher level of energetic consciousness, which is awareness of his energies and how they are going to make him think and then do, he would enjoy that experience of the ball coming into the net, maybe coming closer to him and then bouncing back. Would he have got that experience in life ever before or ever after? Highly unlikely. But the one
Right.
experience that he got of seeing a ball coming straight at him and assured that it's not going to hit him, he lost that in his angst or in his state of
Right.
worry or anxiety, whatever that was.
Right. So
So,
what
likewise, David, we lose a lot of these moments in our lives because our consciousness is not energized at a high level.
right. So what do we do when we're feeling at a very, I guess we can call it a low point in life? And we all go through that when we experience moments where we feel almost depressed or low in life. What does a person do when they're feeling at their lowest moment? They're just, no purpose in life.
Yeah.
I'm on the one of the things about me why I don't really like I may work out, but I don't like the part of the gym where I go and get on the treadmill or ride the exercise bike, because I think subconsciously I feel as though if I'm going to exercise and run or walk or ride a bike, I want to be going somewhere, not be like a
Yeah.
hamster on the. So in life, sometimes you feel like you're on a treadmill and you begin to sink and get very low. What do you do in that moment?
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. Because that brings me to another dimension of this body, mind, spirit trinity. And that is the trinity of the conscious mind, the logical thinking mind, which is driven by the ego, the subconscious mind, which you mentioned, you alluded to, which is the feelings, and the unconscious mind, which is the energies. In fact, for those of you who are familiar with the word karma, these are karmic energies. So what happens is that this is a trinity of the brain, the heart, and the gut, respectively. And the brain is the logical conscious mind, which is saying, what the heck am I doing like a hamster?
Exactly. Right.
The heart is pushing it to go as a hamster because it understands that, emotionally it's got a reason to stay fit. You probably want to look good before people. You probably want to lead a healthier life, which helps you do so much more and makes you so productive. But
Hmm.
somewhere that ego mind is coming in the way. And what's happening at the unconscious level, which is the energetic level, is something that you still have to discover, because we are not familiar with this whole thing about our karmic presence.
Hmm.
And that comes through our past lives, if you to look at it from an oriental perspective,
Okay.
or through our ancestral lineage, which is easier to understand genetically. It is something that we are carrying over in terms of a mind stream from earlier. So we really don't know what we're carrying through. And that's why it's unconscious. But it is there right from the time we are born. Those unconscious faculties, those energies, they drive our heart, they drive our lungs, they drive our responses, our reflexes, even before we develop the emotional feeling mind or the logical thinking mind.
Hmm.
But when we develop the latter, they take over. Just as the body takes over, we get very familiar with the body, and that's why we go to the gym.
Right.
We don't we don't give the brain the mind which is the heart mind, the feeling brain, the chance to determine a lot of things. We're not as familiar with the heart mind as we are with the body mind, and we're
Mm-hmm.
least familiar with the gut mind. So we even science is just making a lot of investigations over the last 2 decades on this gut brain connection, and discovering that there are a whole lot more neurons in the gut than there are in the brain on top. And that's really exciting as far as science is concerned. But in the Tao, in the ancient Oriental wisdom, in the Vedas, where I come from, we've known of this connection since the beginning. And to answer your question now, we use this trinity to change our state. So, what we do is, since we are familiar with the body, we work with the body and we work with the ego. So, all Oriental teachings teach us about mind training, which really is ego control,
Mm-hmm.
and how you could stop thinking of yourself as the hamster and start seeing what out of this is not aligning with something. And when we go deep into ourselves, inside ourselves, we discover that this activity, this physical bodily activity that I am doing, is not aligning with something that we discover, which could be a karmic thing, which could be way beyond what we understand subconsciously. And therefore, it's not working out. That is the reason I'm not able to buy a house, for example. It just eludes me every time. Every time I have, let's say, $100,000 available, the price of the house goes up to 120. And when I have 120, it goes to 140. It eludes me all the time because
Let that
even though I'm working so
right.
hard, I'm not getting that.
Right, exactly. Well, what Sandeep, is there a connection, or how strong? I know there is a connection, but how powerful of a connection is it? You mentioned mind, body, and spirit. Are those three things, or is that just one entity? And the reason I'm asking, how much of our physical problems are connected to our mind and our spirit. I'll give you an example that someone mentioned to me during one of the podcasts, that even a person that is constipated, it's
Mhm.
something that they can do emotionally or spiritually to release, to cause their body to function better. Is that true, or how much of it is true?
100% it is true. The way to be in a state of perfect health, happiness, and harmony is to be in alignment of body, mind, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take something like constipation, I'm glad you brought that one up, because it's very easy to understand, because we structure English in that way, that there's something that you haven't digested.
Okay, right.
And if you haven't digested in the form of that word as we use it in the mind, uh, it could be something your boss said, it could be something your client said, it could be something your spouse said, or even your kids said, or somebody, and you just can't digest it. How could that person say that to me? And that is a mental thing, which
Wow.
could result in a physical condition.
Wow. Wow.
And you could actually move energies in the gut. Fortunately, again, because we're talking about the gut, the constipation, digestion,
Mhm.
you could move energies in the gut to clear that away.
How do you do that? Give us some coaches. How do we do that?
So I'd like listeners to research this word Qigong. It's
Okay.
pronounced Qigong,
Qigong.
and
Okay.
it comes,
So
yeah,
I,
it comes
I
from
I
two words.
mispronounced it when in your introduction. I mispronounced it.
Most people mispronounce it, so that's
uh,
that's not a surprise. But it comes from two words in Mandarin. One is Qi, which is Qi, and it's written as Qi because it's to be differentiated from the Chi, as in Tai Chi.
okay.
So it sounds the same, but there's a difference in meaning. Subtle difference, but a difference, all right. QI is life force energy. It is the energy that we are born with. It's the karmic energy or the energies from our ancestors, the genetic energy, whatever comes in that mind stream that enters through the sperm and the egg. That's chi. And gang means to work with, to cultivate. So
Okay.
any place that you are working with energy in a very raw form, you are practicing Qigong. Now, let me tell you how science has finally caught up with Qi, which we've known for about 5,000 years. Science has investigated something called uh, stem cells, which are found in the umbilical cord of a baby and can be frozen at certain temperatures in very controlled environments to be uh, to be frozen and be ready to be reproduced, to be multiplied in case the baby grows up over 50, 70. I think it goes all the way to 90 years now. They can unfreeze or defreeze those cells and put them in the bone marrow and get them to regenerate, thereby
Wow.
solving for any kind of problem, health issue, including things like leukemia and various types of cancers and a whole lot of things that I haven't really
Wow.
caught up on.
Wow.
So that's stem cell research.
Right.
Now, where are these stem cells coming from? If you think about it, what's in the umbilical cord? The umbilical cord contains the nascent chi, because that was where your first cells developed.
Okay.
So what we are extracting to regenerate is the nascent chi, life force energy, which we were born with. And that energy can multiply because it gets stored in our bone marrow. And you just inject more of it from whatever is frozen, and you get that energy moving again. So
Wow.
instead of counting on those deep freezers and all those technologies, you can just be practicing Qigong, which is there are various methodologies. Uh, I can't go over them on an audio show, but I'd be happy to connect with the listeners on a Zoom call and work them through these kind of things. It's always good to work with Chi with a master because we're talking about energies which we can't really see in a YouTube video, but we can
Right.
experience them when we're guided to experience them, and we can be guided to visualize them and move them. So
Okay.
it's always good to do it that way.
Is
But
this
if
is
you
this
can
sort of
imagine this,
go ahead.
thanks. If you can imagine this, just moving your belly in a circular manner with a synchronization with your breathing, it is something that would move the energies through the breath and the physical movement in the belly area, and that would probably be a good starting point for digestive disorders.
Okay. Wow. So is this sort of similar to some type of meditation or yoga, or is this something totally different?
Well, a lot of people refer to qigong as meditation in motion because we move. Like I was mentioning, you move the belly, and you're completely inwardly focused on the breath and its movement and its interaction with the belly. So it's you're kind of meditating on the belly and the breath,
Okay.
and that's one way of looking at it. Uh, another thing is that it's a kind of yoga at the next level, because
Okay.
yoga, the word in Sanskrit, it means joining.
Okay. All
And
right. I didn't know that.
essentially, yeah. It's the joining of the mind and the body.
Okay. I did not
What?
know that.
Yeah, that's quite evident in the way that you have certain postures and you match them with certain breathing techniques, and
Hmm.
that when you're focused with the mind on the breath and you're making those movements, you join the mind and body and get them
Okay.
to work more powerfully in sync together.
Okay. Well, I hate to do this. Well, no, I don't. I'll do it. I hate to open a can of worms, but I don't really hate to. As long as someone is helped by it. You explain to us what Qigong is, and you shared with us one example of how to do it, which is to breathe in and or breathe and move the stomach in a circular motion, etc. What about, and we started talking about that because we brought up the word constipation as an example. What about the person that says, well, rather than me sitting and breathing and moving my stomach, I'll go to the store and buy a laxative and just pump it out? The reason why I'm asking that, I want to talk for a few minutes. We only have a few minutes left, but I want to very quickly go over how is this better than medicine? Just someone that says, well, I'll just take medication to solve my issue.
Right. That is a big can of worms. So let's ask this person who's making this choice whether they would like to have a fish for dinner, or they would learn to fish and therefore never have a problem with dinner. That's the difference.
Okay.
You would solve the short-term problem. You don't have dinner in your plate, so somebody gives you a fish, you're fine. That's the medicine. The next day you again have a problem, and you keep having those problems. But if you learn how to fish, which is you learn how to tap into your body, mind, and spirit, into your mind through the breathing, into your body through the belly movement, and into the spirit, the energy through the visualization, which is the joining of the three things, not just mind and body, but mind, body, and energy. That's why I said it's yoga at the next level. Then you would never need medication.
Wow. So boy, I wish we had another some more time to get into this. We're gonna have to. Hopefully, you'll join us again, and we can get more into this. So, you said so. Hopefully, we wouldn't meet. Does how much of people that are taking medication, and I must say that I'm included. Now, I'm not talking about someone else. I'm talking about David now, who is taking medication for high blood pressure. Can't that be resolved? Because the doctor says to me, here's your medication. I asked the doctor, I said, well, how long do I have to take this before I no longer struggle with blood pressure? And he says, well, it's probably hereditary. You don't take it to get better. The medication won't fix the problem. It just maintains it and regular, it keeps the blood pressure down. Can't that be resolved, like you said, by connecting my mind, body, and energy to where the stress level is so low that that affects it?
You've just pointed to the answer yourself.
Yeah, I
Why
know.
does one
Yeah.
have a blood pressure problem? One has a blood pressure problem because there is stress. And what is causing the stress? The stress is caused by the lack of alignment. As I mentioned earlier, once you're in alignment, there is no stress. Your health, happiness, and harmony um, are also aligned. So it's it's a habit that we have to induce to get
Yes.
into this alignment. Now, I'll give you a
Yes.
quick example to get this trinity home for every one of us. What we have in our mind, we tend to say, right? So
Right.
saying things is representative of the mind. Doing things is representative of the body. And being, how you feel, is your spiritual entity. Say, do, and be. These are the three things that on a day-to-day, on a maybe minute-to-minute basis, we can keep a check on. If you say something that you don't do, there will be stress. If you do something that you don't feel that that was the right thing to do, but you did it because of certain pressures, you are in a toxic work environment. You are stressed. If you're saying things that you don't feel right about, you are out of integrity. Again, stressed.
Wow.
It's just these three things, the say do be harmony, that decides, that's a self diagnostic for whether you are stressed or not. And how do you bring it back? Through something like Qigong, which is a habit which you do physically involving the Trinity.
Wow. Sandeep, I tell you, our time is up, and I must say that I have done so many of the Underground Subway podcasts, and I must honestly say I thank you for joining us. And I'm saying this not because you are a guest, but I'm saying this from the sincerity of my heart that this has been one of the most powerful and enlightening interviews that I have conducted on the Underground Subway. I've got a whiteboard full of notes. I'm going to, that say do be, let me get it right before I make sure I wrote my notes. I was writing so fast. To say is my mind, to do is my body, and to be is how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm just blown away. Sometimes you enter an interview and you say, okay, this is going to be just like every other one. This was not like every other one. This was so enlightening to me. I was sharing with
You
someone.
make me feel so good. I hope
Yes.
viewers, listeners think that way too.
Yeah.
But that
Well,
is so sweet of you. Thank you.
I was sharing with someone, I said to them that people say, well, we really gain a lot from the podcast. And I said, well, the problem is you think that the podcast is designed to help you. However, I feel as though I'm getting it first because I'm the glass, and the glass partakes of the liquid before it's poured out to someone else. So,
Sweet.
and so I just feel so, I am just blown away, and just I know this is an audio podcast, but if everyone could see the smile on my face, I'm just, I'm going to research, I'm going to study, I'm going to contact you, I'm going to get more information because I want to live a better life. I know that I have a saying that I say, we're all going to leave this world sooner or later. One day we're all going to leave the world, but today won't be that day. And so I'm so grateful, my friend. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. You taking time. How can we, real quickly before we go, how can we get in touch with you? Tell everyone how they could connect with you.
Great. So I'm at sandeepnath.com
Okay.
and renewalism.com. Renewalism is a movement that I'm running, David, which just started with the book Renewal, which is available at all the leading portals, which is about renewing oneself from within, getting that body, mind, spirit aligned. You can do it just following renewal habits.
Okay. All
So
right.
renewalism.com, you can reach us through there.
All right. Thank you, my friend. To all of you that are listening to this edition, I want to thank you. I want to give a special thanks to my guest for this edition, Sandeep Nath. This was again a powerful interview. I'm super excited to get this podcast out to you. I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules, whether you're listening in the car, whether you're at the gym, working out, listening, whether you're at work with your AirPods in your ear, wherever you may be, at home. Thank you for joining the Underground Subway podcast. It means a lot to me that you have invested time, our most valuable resource, into your life to listen to make yourself better. Well, the Underground Subway is rolling along, but unfortunately, this is your stop. You got to let you off so that you can get better. But before you go, my friends, I want to challenge you. Before you go to bed tonight, look in the mirror, eyeball to eyeball, and ask yourself a question. Today, did I work toward my destiny and becoming a better person? Did I better myself? Did I connect my mind, body, and spirit, my energy level? Did I do that, or did I just waste another day? Think about it. No more time to waste. Talk to you next time when it's time for you to board this train on the Underground Subway. I'm David Alston. Have a great day and a better tomorrow. We'll see you next time right here.